Have you ever heard the phrase luck is on your side and rolled your eyes? Sure, it's just something people say to make sense of the unexplainable. What if the unexplainable could be explained step by step, number by number, artery by artery, until the impossible looks almost logical? Tonight, we're not telling campfire tales. We're running an audit on catastrophe. 7 cases, 7 autopsies of chance where death arrived on schedule and was sent away because one microscopic variable refused to cooperate. No miracles, no angels, no cosmic dice, just anatomy, physics, and timing so precise it feels like fiction. Keep your curiosity open. Your need to blink can wait. Case 1. The truck driver who became a human airbag. Stephen McCormick, New Zealand, 2007. Routine brake check between cab and trailer. A patch of grease, a misplaced boot, and he drops backward onto the brass nipple of the compressed air line, 1,200 kilopascals, the same pressure that stops 40 tons on a downhill grade. The nipple pierces the gluteal fascia, air jets directly into soft tissue, and Newton's third law turns itself inside out. Every reaction inflates the man. Within 4 seconds, the fascia separates from muscle like wallpaper in a hurricane. Air tracks along facial planes, up the retroperitoneal space, across the mediastinum, behind the sternum, and into the orbital cavities. His torso circumference increases by 18 centimeters, eyelids balloon until conjunctiva protrude. Colleagues kill the compressor at the manifold, but the valve is one way, tissue pressure now higher than line pressure. The ambulance is 62 minutes away. Both regional units are running a multi-car pileup on State Highway 1. McCormick remains conscious, pulse 140, blood oxygen 82%, because the air is not inside his circulatory system. It's parked outside it, compressing rather than embolizing. That is the first improbable constant. The valve entered adipose tissue, not a vein. Had it nicked the superior gluteal vein, 1,200 kilopascals would have sent a continuous air column to the right heart. A 2 milliliter bolus per kilogram is instantly fatal. Instead, surgeons arrive to find a living balloon. They insert a 14-gauge cannula through the 7th intercostal space, equalize pleural pressure, then wait. The body off-gases the rogue atmosphere, the only route available, across the intestinal wall, out through the colon. 3 days of continuous flatulence measured at 1.3 liters per hour. On day 4, the last crepitus crackles under palpation. On day 10, he walks out with nothing but a half-moon scar and a party trick no one wants to see. Probability of replicating the exact entry angle, tissue depth, and vessel miss, 1 in 1.8 million. Case 2. The skydiver whose parachute failed and whose heart was jump-started by insects. Joan Murray, North Carolina, September 1999. Jump number 36, altitude 14,500 feet, airspeed 120 miles per hour. She pulls the pilot chute, no bridle extension, no canopy. Reserve handle deploys, but line twist converts the second canopy into a streamer. Drag coefficient drops, descent rate climbs to 80 miles per hour. Impact on private farmland, right side first, femur exits the acetabulum. Humerus shatters, ribs bilaterally, coma instantaneous. But she lands square on a fire ant mound, Solenopsis invicta, colony density 1,200 ants per square foot. Disturbed workers release solenopsin, an alkaloid venom that blocks voltage-gated sodium channels at low dose and floods catecholamines at high dose. 200 stings deliver roughly 0.8 milligrams of toxin, enough to induce systemic hypertension, coronary vasodilation, and sustained tachycardia. Her core temperature is 34 degrees Celsius, perfusion plummeting, but the venom maintains a mean arterial pressure of 65 millimeters of mercury, buying the paramedics a 15-minute window to infuse warm saline and stabilize rhythm. In ICU, she undergoes 14 reconstructive surgeries. Every ant sting scar becomes a biological pacemaker mark. Discharge day 86, full neurological recovery. Repeat the trajectory 1 meter left and she lands on bare clay, cardiac standstill in 90 seconds. Repeat it with a non-allergic individual and the venom dose is insufficient with a hyperallergic individual. Anaphylaxis finishes what the fall began. Only Joan Murray's immune Goldilocks zone keeps the story narrated. Case 3. The bride who rode a ship's funnel like a bullet from a gun. Margaret Guire, RMS Lusitania, May 7, 1915. Torpedo impact starboard bow at 2:10 p.m. Bulkhead failure in 90 seconds. List to starboard 15 degrees. Margaret reaches lifeboat 14, then panics at the angle of the twin funnels overhead, each 155-foot-tall 60,000 pounds of steel guy wired to superstructure that is now bending. She climbs back to a deck just as the boiler uptakes tear. At 2:28 p.m., the ship's center of gravity passes the point of no return. A hydraulic hammer effect drives entrained water up the starboard funnel shaft. Margaret is swept into the funnel mouth by a 30-knot inrush, joining 2 male passengers and several thousand tons of seawater. 72 feet down, boiler room number 2 explodes. Superheated boilers meeting cold Atlantic, producing a pressure wave measured at 5 psi above ambient. The wave travels up the funnel, accelerating the water column and its human cargo. Margaret is ejected 15 feet above sea level, clear of suction, conscious, with nothing worse than burst capillaries in both eyes. 43 minutes later, she is pulled into Lifeboat 5. Her husband, Herbert, who watched the funnel swallow her, stops speaking for 3 days. Archive calculations: if the torpedo had struck 30 seconds later, boiler gradient would have been lower. No explosion, no ejection. 1 tick of a clock converts bride to projectile. Case 4. The kayakers who were filtered, not swallowed. Julie McSorley and Liz Cottrell, San Luis Obispo Bay, November 2020. They paddle a 12-foot sit-on-top at 9:17 a.m., water clarity 18 feet, anchovy bait ball visible at 30 feet. Regulation minimum distance from feeding whales is 100 yards. Hydrophone data show the nearest humpback surfaces at 97 yards, marginally legal, biologically irrelevant. At 9:24 a.m., the bait ball panics, rises, and the kayak is now inside the acoustic bubble that drives the fish. A juvenile humpback, Megaptera novianglii, lunges vertically, gape area 18 square meters, flow rate 18,000 liters per second. The women are ingested up to the waist, not the whole body. The buccal cavity stretches, but the oropharyngeal channel remains 15 centimeters in diameter, size of a grapefruit, not a human torso. No teeth, no peristalsis, no digestive acid. Filtration is mechanical. The whale's velum closes, preventing water entry to the trachea, and lingual rolls eject non-prey items within 4.3 seconds. Julie and Liz surface 3M starboard, kayak intact, GoPro still recording. Maximum pressure experienced 0.4 psi, less than a firm handshake. Probability of full torso entry 0.07%, requiring a whale 2 meters longer and a gape angle 15 degrees wider. They were filtered like plankton, not eaten like prey. Case 5. The factory worker who was extruded and lived. Matthew Lowe, Yorkshire, April 2011. Conveyor line designed for 25 kilograms flour sacks, gap between rollers 12.7 centimeters narrowing to 5 centimeters. Coverall cuff snags on a protruding bolt head at 8:43 a.m. Belt speed 0.8 m per second. He is pulled prone, thorax forced through the narrowing in 0.9 seconds. Kinetic energy delivered 1.6 kilojoules, equivalent to a 200 kilograms weight, dropped 1 meter. Pelvis fractures in 3 places, sacrum splits, lumbar vertebrae L2 L4 burst fractures, bilateral pneumothoraces, abdominal wall degloved. Yet the rollers stall at the widest diameter of his torso. Motors are torque limited to protect the gearbox. Stall current trips the breaker. The belt stops before the cranial vault reaches the nip point. Had the motors been 0.5 kilowatts stronger or the limiter bypassed, his skull would have been subjected to 40 knots, instant death. Paramedics find him conscious, map 60 millimeters of mercury GCS-14. 6 surgeries, 34 units of blood, titanium mesh pelvis, 18 months of rehab. He returns to the same factory, now fitted with laser trip emergency stops. Extrusion survival probability at this energy level, 0.3% in published trauma databases. Case 6. The child who skewered her own skull and missed everything important. Taiba, Uttar Pradesh, March 2018. Construction site rebar, grade 60 steel, 16 millimeters diameter, protrudes 1.2 meters at 70 degrees from a brick stack. She trips on loose aggregate, velocity 2.1 meter per second, angle 35 degrees below horizontal. The rod enters the neck anterior to sternocleidomastoid, passes lateral to the carotid sheath, inferior to the jugular vein, superior to the vagus nerve, exits through the parietal scalp without touching bone. Total path length 14 centimeters, average clearance from critical structures 2 millimeters. CT angiogram shows the bar occupying a volume of 0.8 milliliters, inside which 0 vessels are transected. Removal in theater under fluoro guidance, 35 minutes, blood loss 18 milliliters. Discharge on post-op day 3 with a 4 centimeter scar hidden by hair. Monte Carlo simulation of 10,000 identical falls. Penetration occurs in 98%, fatal hemorrhage in 83%, major neural injury in 71%. Her outcome sits in the 0.02 percentile tail, anatomically impossible until witnessed. Case 7, the man death forgot, then fate tipped with a lottery win. Frane Cilic, Croatia, 1962–2003. 7 documented events, each statistically independent. 1962 train derailment into river. 17 of 60 passengers drown. He swims with a broken arm. Survival odds 0.43. 1963 plane crash. Door failure at 8,000 feet. 19 fatalities. He lands on hay. Odds 0.012. 1965 bus plunge off bridge. 4 of 20 die. He survives. Odds 0.80. 1970 car engine fire. Exits at T0. Odds 0.95. 1973 car fuel pump explosion. Suffers 18% burns. Exits. Odds 0.88. 1975 pedestrian versus bus. Minor injuries. Odds 0.60. 1996 mountain road plunge, 90m drop, jumps out at 60 kilometers per hour, clings to tree, car detonates, odds 0.20. Multiply the conditional probabilities, 0.43 times, 0.012 times, 0.80 times, 0.95 times, 0.88 times, 0.60 times, 0.20 is equal to 0.00042 or 1 in 200 400. Then 2003 National Lottery 1 in 1.2 million. Combined probability of surviving all 7 incidents and winning 1 in 2.9 billion. Expected number of living humans sharing that vector 0.00038. Frane is the rounding error that breeds. So what is luck? It is not a cloud of fairy dust. It is a set of variables so tight they look like a dot to the naked eye. Shift any datum, angle, millisecond, antigen, alloy hardness, and the story collapses into an obituary. These 7 people did not bend reality. They slid through gaps that geometry momentarily forgot to close. If you need a takeaway, here it is. The universe is not sentimental, but it is occasionally sloppy. When that slop aligns with human flesh in exactly the right configuration, you get a survivor instead of a statistic. Keep your eyes open, your facial planes healthy, and maybe, just maybe, stay away from construction sites, conveyor belts, and New Zealand truck valves. Thanks for auditing catastrophe with us.